Good day, everyone. We are delighted to welcome you to this discussion of how jobs in high quality early care education programs exemplify the principles of quality jobs. Far from the outdated notion that work with young children and their families is not a job worth pursuing, ECWC and our well-informed guests are going to make the case that careers in early care and education are not only essential to parenting workers across the U.S. labor force, but also enjoyable, satisfying, and rewarding in many ways that matter for those that choose this path. We are taking this moment at the intersection of the Week of the Young Child and National Apprenticeship Week to celebrate early childhood jobs and the professionals who commit to them. We are so glad that you could join us today. First, some housekeeping. To turn on closed captions, click the three dots labeled More at the top of your Teams window and select Language and Speech from the menu, then click Show Live Captions. We request that all participants remain muted as we present today's content. At the end of the presentation, we've set aside time for dialogue, where you are welcome to unmute, engage, and ask questions. We are monitoring the chat, so you can pop your questions in the chat as you think of them during the presentation, and we'll bring them up later. No need to ask. The slide deck and related resources will be sent to each of you via email later today, and a recording of the webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. We're going to start with information from a national report we think everyone should read. That's a call to action for advocates to make all care jobs good jobs. Then we'll describe a compelling modern framework from Results for America's Job Quality Playbook on 8 interconnected principles that describe the components of a quality job. We'll explore how jobs in high quality early care and education programs measure up to those principles and why all of that matters for expanding registered apprenticeship as a workforce strategy in early care and education. We'll then be joined by a leader from an exemplary early care and education employer and registered apprenticeship sponsor to talk about how their organization works on advancing good jobs for early childhood educators in their program every day. Finally, after some time for questions and dialogue, we'll share just a few details about the resources and support that are available from ECWC. Let's get to it. I'm Reva Murphy, Project Director for the Early Childhood Workforce Connector at WRMA. I've been active in early care and education for over 42 years. Half of my career has been in teaching young children, mentoring early childhood professionals, developing and directing high-quality early childhood programs and consulting. And the other half has been in government positions, overseeing early childhood policy and services. I've experienced this industry from many perspectives. We'll be joined by Amanda Bergson-Shilcock. Amanda is a senior fellow at the National Skills Coalition, where she leads the organization's work on adult education and workforce policies to expand opportunities for U.S. workers. Throughout her career, Amanda has worked with state and federal policymakers and advocates to develop policy solutions that address the challenges facing adult learners and job seekers, both immigrant workers and those born in the United States. My colleague, Marian Grant Whitlock, is the Early Childhood Education Liaison for the Early Childhood Workforce Connector, providing expert technical assistance on early education, professional development, and mentoring in the context of apprenticeship for our clients and partners. Her passion for empowering educators and advocating for families and children drives her work in promoting inclusion, meaningful relationships, social emotional literacy, and human development. She believes in amplifying every voice. Marian will be interviewing Kelsey Swanson. Kelsey is the Executive Projects and Administrative Coordinator at SAL Community Services in Illinois and Iowa. Kelsey is an experienced early childhood and workforce development professional who has been supporting children, families, and the systems that serve them for over 15 years. Her work includes managing grant-funded programs, supporting registered apprenticeships, and partnering with state and federal agencies to develop sustainable career pathways in human services and early childhood education. So without further ado, here's Amanda.
Thanks so much, Riva. It's wonderful to be here with all of you today. I'm coming to you as the daughter of two early childhood educators, so this is a lovely full circle moment for me. I work for National Skills Coalition. We are a big tent bipartisan coalition of workforce and education advocates. We're a policy advocacy organization. We have about 20,000 members across the country who are workforce boards, community colleges, nonprofit organizations, adult education providers, industry sector partnerships, labor management training partnerships, employers, chambers of commerce, labor unions, you name it. Everyone with an interest in making sure that jobs that require education past high school but not a four-year degree are good jobs, and that workers have access to skills training and small businesses have the workforce they need. Next slide. So I'm here today to talk about a report that we put out a few months ago, Making Care Jobs Good Jobs. We're going to Great. Link to the full slide here. You will have access to these slides after today's webinar, so you'll be able to go deep on this if you want. And in particular, I wanted to thank the Care Workforce Advisory Council members who helped us develop the policy recommendations that we have in this report. We have a full list of their names in our report, and I encourage you to take a look at that. Next slide. So I'm going to highlight three of our recommendations in particular here, and these are policy levers. So I'm very clear about this. This is things that Congress can do and things that state governments can do. Obviously, there's a lot of other actors in the early childhood world, and we're going to talk later today about things that early childhood program administrators can do and other stakeholders in the field. But I'm talking specifically about policy changes. Next slide. And the first is very straightforward. If we want to raise care workers' wages, we need to advocate for increased reimbursement rates for care work. The way that the early childhood education field is structured, which I'm sure is not news to any of you on this morning's or this afternoon's call, is that it's really hard to raise people's wages if you're not also increasing the reimbursement rates that care providers are getting, right? We know that already the Federal Child Care Development Fund really only covers about 75% of the cost of providing care for young people. So advocating for increased reimbursement rates is kind of job one if what you want to do is improve wages for workers. Next slide. The second policy advocacy tool that we want to lift up is, sort of using discretionary funds where they're available to kind of thoughtfully incentivize early childhood employers. So one state example, one state has used discretionary funding first under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and then I believe some state specific funding to launch something called high road sector partnerships. So a sector partnership brings together multiple employers in the same industry along with an education or workforce partner. It might seem kind of crazy to have competitors in the same room talking about their talent needs, but sector partnerships are actually a proven model that have been around for several decades. And many states, including places like Pennsylvania, have long implemented these in fields from manufacturing to healthcare to you name it. And workforce organizations can serve as the kind of backbone organization or the coordinator for an early childhood education focused sector partnership. And I've put a link on the screen here to one flavor of sector partnerships, but like I said, a lot of states have implemented some flavor of this policy, sometimes using flexible federal dollars, sometimes using state funding. Not that many states have yet created sector partnerships that are specific to early childhood education. So I think this is an area of opportunity. Next slide. And then the third recommendation that I want to lift up here is we're in a moment where there's frankly a lot of chaos at the federal policy level. And so I don't want to be Pollyanna here and suggest that, things are all hunky-dory. I know that many folks have had to fight hard with Congress to make sure that funding cuts don't happen. A lot of other folks are dealing with the ripple effects of Medicaid and SNAP requirements that have recently changed. But it's also true that we're in a moment now where the federal government is more willing to allow waivers to states who want to try new things. This is a good moment if you have an idea of something you'd like to do to put that waiver forward or to urge your governor's office or your state agency to do that. And the example I have to share with you here is from an adjacent field. So it's not an early childhood care role specifically, although it is a direct care program. So California is using a Medicaid waiver, a federal waiver for the Medicaid program, for a program they're calling BH Connect. And it is allowing frontline workers, including drug and alcohol counselors and other entry-level behavioral health roles, to either get tuition reimbursement if they're going through training right now, or to get reimbursement for educational debt they've already incurred, as long as they're willing to work for a period of time in medically underserved areas, right? So that's the trade-off, right? We pay your training costs, you promise to work in a community that has a shortage of behavioral health workers. By itself, this is not a fix. I want to be clear. This is a fix in collaboration with other tools. And when you design demonstration projects, you want to make sure that you don't create unintended spillover consequences that can be problematic. And so we've linked actually here to a great resource from another organization that helps kind of think through some of those factors. So those are the three policy examples I wanted to lift up. Next slide. And I hope as you hear the rest of our conversation today, you really take to heart no one can work on all of these puzzle pieces at once. But I hope that one of the puzzle pieces that you hear about either from me or from one of the other speakers today will resonate with you, and that as advocates who cared enough to join today's webinar, who carved out time from your busy day and your busy work schedule to be here with us, you think about one of these that you might want to move forward in your state or community. And I'm going to go ahead and turn things back to Riva.
Thanks, Amanda. I am always inspired by your work and speaking. Right now, we're interested in hearing from all of you. What do you think makes a career in early childhood education a good job? Choose one of the selections that you think is most compelling. And if you select other, please put your answer in the chat. Oh. Whoa. Well, we have a pretty clear leader here, though some people are shifting around a little. That is great. Okay. Oh, a few more people are weighing in. Okay, maybe one more minute, Marion, and then we'll move on. Yeah. Oh, here it is. So we have a pretty clear leader here. And thank you for responding. We're going to see in just a few minutes how your answers compare to our crosswalk. Okay. You can go on to the next slide. At ECWC, we believe that the early childhood workforce is foundational in promoting the well-being and development of young children, the prosperity and stability of families, and the social and economic fiber of thriving communities. We resist the narrative that jobs in early care and education are not quality jobs because revenues in the dominant business model don't support wages worthy of the work and the skills and knowledge needed to do it well. We agree that wages matter and advocate for strategies to advance change on that front, like the ones that Amanda was just talking about. And while working on that, we promote the case that there's more to careers in early childhood than wages and benefits. We are grateful to the team at Results for America, an independent nonprofit organization with a mission to accelerate upward economic mobility and improve lives. They created the Job Quality Playbook that includes a fresh look at a framework for defining the components of a quality job that creates better futures for workers and businesses. We use their framework and their 8 aspirational principles to consider how jobs in high quality early childhood settings measure up in today's job market. The framework distributes the 8 interconnected principles into 3 categories that you see in this overview. Job necessities raise the floor for all jobs and create the conditions for fair work. They provide equitable compensation, rights, and protection for workers. The principles in this category are mostly tangible and can be measured and compared across industries and jobs. Job necessities include earnings, schedules, and safety and security. The second category, job opportunities, are focused on career development, advancement, and empowerment that lead to economic mobility for workers and increase performance for employers. They enable worker engagement and inclusion and promote movement on career pathways in a profession. Job opportunities include learning and development and voice and representation. Job features help employers attract and retain highly qualified employees and provide job satisfaction for workers. They respond to the individual life situations, preferences, and needs of workers. Job features include benefits, workplace environment and culture, and purpose and meaning. We considered the 8 principles Results for America proposes as components of quality jobs, and we created a crosswalk comparing these principles to characteristics and conditions an early childhood professional would find when working in a high-quality early childhood program. Research in early childhood education indicates clearly that a program that supports children's holistic development and strengthens families is what delivers on all the proven benefits associated with early care and education. Access to high quality settings and positive relationships for children, families, and staff is the goal. So our crosswalk focuses on work in high quality settings. These components provide early childhood education employers and registered apprenticeship programs with an achievable roadmap for creating the best environments for staff to thrive and grow so that children will too. In the next few slides, I'll take a high-level walk through our comparisons in all 3 categories. We'll post a full crosswalk on our website, and you'll get it in a follow-up email this week. Let's start with job necessities. Remember, these raise the floor for all jobs and create the conditions for fair work. The first principle, earnings, means a living wage for a full-time worker. It is a reality that wages in early childhood, which is a labor-intensive industry, remain far below the living standard. This gap reflects a funding model where family contributions cannot cover the true cost of programs that pay a living wage, commensurate with the skills and knowledge needed to do this work. We agree this is critical, yet it doesn't mean we can't also focus on more achievable components of quality jobs while we advocate for increased public and private investments to resolve the wage issue. Another identified necessity is that employees are hired with a reasonable and predictable work schedule that they accept when they are hired. Also, that they receive advance notice if that regular schedule changes. High quality early childhood programs prioritize predictable, stable schedules for early childhood educators because consistent staffing provides continuity of care for children and contributes to staff well-being that allows them to be fully present to develop positive relationships. The third job necessity is security and safety. That means employers implement policies and practices to promote physical safety as well as mental and emotional safety. Clear work expectations are communicated, employees are allowed to take some risks, and colleagues are encouraged to care for one another in the workplace. In early childhood, licensing regulations and quality standards promote physical safety, emotional well-being, and strong anti-harassment policies. High-quality early care and education settings are focused on inclusion and belonging. Early childhood employers reduce stress for staff through strong onboarding and orientation, through mentoring, and through clearly expressed work expectations. In the category of job necessities, we think that early childhood jobs measure up to 2 of the 3 principles reflecting good jobs. Now let's look at job opportunities. These are focused on career development, advancement, and empowerment that lead to economic mobility for workers and increased performance for employers. The first opportunity principle is learning and development. This means that employers provide or support training, skill development, and ongoing education for employees. Mentoring and coaching is available. Employees are recognized for performing well, and there are opportunities for advancement on a career path. Here is a principle where early childhood education shines. Robust ongoing education and professional development activities are required by regulations, recognized in quality standards, and essential to continuous quality improvement in early childhood programs. Professional development systems in states recognize and reward increased knowledge and skills. Learning and development is a constant in early childhood education. The second principle in this category is voice and representation. This may mean opportunities for workers to participate in collective action and organized labor. In an industry characterized by small employers, this is less prevalent, but it does happen in larger early childhood organizations. This principle also includes employers valuing, asking for, and acting upon employee input through surveys, stay interviews, employee resource groups, and meaningful advisory groups or improvement teams. Standards measuring quality in early childhood programs include indicators of this type of active engagement. High-quality early childhood programs regularly engage staff through surveys, feedback loops, and collaborative problem solving on teams. Strong employee voice and advocacy efforts strengthen workplace culture and retention in high-quality early childhood programs. In this category, we think early childhood careers measure up to 2 of these principles for job quality. Now let's talk about job features. These help employers attract and retain highly qualified employees and provide job satisfaction for workers. Individual job seekers and workers may value job features from different perspectives. The first principle in this category is benefits. This means that employers provide access to a range of employee benefits, including those that address barriers to work. Many early childhood programs face financial constraints in providing benefits for their staff. Access to benefits varies widely across the sector, limiting their overall impact on job quality. There is progress here, though, and strategies like shared services and publicly funded programs addressing the needs of this workforce are on the rise in states. More is needed, however, to consider this principle met. Another identified feature is environment and culture. This encompasses a range of factors. It means that employees are provided with appropriate tools and technology to be productive. They feel connected to coworkers. This intersects with voice and representation to include input and some autonomy and control in how employees do their work. A positive culture is established, modeled, and reinforced by an organization's leadership and management teams. High quality early care and education programs have long been admired as respectful, supportive environments where early childhood educators feel connected, equipped, and valued. That's why the best educators generally gravitate to the best programs. Strong management and positive adult relationships reduce turnover and strengthen program quality. Creating community is what high quality early childhood programs are all about. Finally, we come to my personal favorite and the selection that many of you made, the majority of you made, which is purpose and meaning. This principle means that job seekers and workers feel that work tasks are significant, interesting, and appropriately challenging. This includes how well a job, career path, a specific employer, or industry aligns with an individual's strengths, interests, and values. Supporting young children and families in a high-quality environment is impactful, life-changing work. Young children and families, for early childhood educators whose strengths align with relationship-based, child-focused practice, the primary reason they enter and stay in the field is that they find the work to be deeply rewarding and energizing. In the category of job features, then, we think that early childhood jobs measure up really well to two of the three principles reflecting quality jobs. In 6 out of the 8 principles in the quality jobs framework, early childhood jobs and careers measure up as well worth pursuing. We think that makes a good case that these are good jobs. Our project, the Early Childhood Workforce Connector, or ECWC, is all about promoting registered apprenticeship as a powerful workforce development strategy for early childhood education. One of the things we appreciate about the Results for America framework is the articulation of these principles of quality jobs that align so well with all that registered apprenticeship promotes. Progressive wage scales shine a light on improving earnings. On-the-job training and related instruction robustly support learning and development that ensures early childhood educators feel equipped and supported in their responsibilities. Registered apprenticeship programs encourage professional advancement through structured career pathways. Strong early childhood registered apprenticeship programs uphold and advance principles of quality jobs and improve the quality of the early childhood environments where apprentices thrive. These principles provide a roadmap for early childhood employers and registered apprenticeship group sponsors supporting those employers to create work environments that not only attract new early childhood educators into the field as a quality career choice, but also offer every early childhood educator a great place to do meaningful and purposeful work. And now I'm going to turn this over to Marion to have a conversation with Kelsey about what this looks like in real life.
Thank you so much, Reba, for that wonderful breakdown, and also Amanda. And so I am so happy to be interviewing Kelsey today. And so without further ado, Kelsey, can you start by telling us about SAL Community Services and the work that you do?
Of course. SAL Community Services is a nonprofit organization here in Moline, Illinois. We're dedicated to supporting children and families through high quality early childhood education and care. We have skip along childcare centers. We provide safe, nurturing, and developmentally appropriate learning environments for children while also investing in our workforce through initiatives just like this registered apprenticeship.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So you mentioned the workforce, and so I have a question about the workforce. What workforce challenges or barriers has SAL faced, and how has being an early childhood registered apprenticeship program sponsor and employer helped address those challenges?
Right. So like a lot of early childhood providers, we've always faced chronic teacher shortages, a high rate of turnover, and barriers related to the compensation provided. It's difficult to attract and retain qualified staff in a field that requires significant skill, and we're historically underfunded. Becoming a registered apprenticeship sponsor and employer has been a real game changer for us. Um, we take the earn while you learn model, where staff don't have to choose between working or going to school, as they can do both. And then the education and training that they receive through the registered apprenticeship program, it unlocks access to several different financial incentive programs and supports that may not have otherwise been available to them. Just provides a clear pathway for this career, provides mentorship, and ties wage increases to skill development. We're seeing stronger retention, higher engagement of staff, and a more confident and competent workforce.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. So it sounds like early childhood education, the registered apprenticeship program is working both on the sponsorship side and the employer side. So that is great, addressing those challenges and barriers. So I do have another question. Of course, I do. How do you approach staff scheduling in a way that supports educator wellness while also ensuring continuity of care for the children and stable classroom routines?
Sure. We approach scheduling, first and foremost with the well-being of the staff and the children, with their needs in mind. Consistency is so critical for young children, so we prioritize, stable classroom assignments, minimize any unnecessary transitions, and then we recognize that educators' well-being is directly tied to the classroom quality. We build schedules that allow for planning time for our teachers, mentorship sessions, and time for staff to complete their coursework related to the apprenticeship program. We also try to be flexible when working with staff to accommodate their individual needs. And having a pipeline of apprentices that has helped us build up our staffing, it's making it easier to maintain ratios and provide coverage without disruption.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. And can you describe the work environment at SAL, particularly how you use scheduling and other workplace practices to create a culture of safety, belonging, and respect where staff feel secure, heard, and represented?
Yeah, so SAL supports our staff through continuous individualized approach to their professional development. Entry-level staff benefit from this registered apprenticeship program because it combines hands-on experience with mentorship and a pathway to earning a CDA credential. Experienced educators access ongoing training, leadership roles, and opportunities to mentor other teachers. And this creates a stronger community and culture of learning at every stage of the careers through early childhood. We attract and retain staff by elevating meaningful work and clear pathways through this career. And we retain them through fair compensation, mentorship opportunities, and opportunities for advancement. Our work environment reinforces these efforts by prioritizing safety, belonging, and respect. We schedule thoughtfully and inclusively to help staff feel secure, heard, and valued. And this really does create a culture where educators want to stay and grow.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Because voices, like Reva said earlier, voices need to be heard and feel valued. Awesome. Thank you so much. And how does SAL support ongoing learning and professional development for the educators at different stages of their careers?
Yeah, so professional development is really embedded into everything that we do. For entry-level staff, the Registered Apprenticeship Program provides a structured pathway toward earning their CDA credential, along with hands-on training and regular mentorship. For the more experienced staff, we offer ongoing training, leadership opportunities, chances to take on roles like mentors. And then we align professional development with individual goals. So staff can continue to grow whether they want to deepen their classroom practice or move into leadership roles. The idea is just to create a community of learning where everyone, regardless of where they start, has a path forward.
Awesome. That's awesome. And how do you find and keep people? How do you find and keep them?
Yeah. Recruitment and retention really come down to purpose, support, and opportunity. People are drawn to this field because they want to make a difference. We make sure to center that purpose in our messaging and our daily work. And the apprenticeship program has become a strong recruitment tool because it removes the barriers and offers a clear pathway into the field. For retention, it's just about making sure staff feel supported, that they're fairly compensated, and they have room to grow. Mentorship, wage progression, and a positive work environment all play a role. And when people feel like their work matters, that they're improving their skills, and that they're part of a supportive team, they're much more likely to stay.
Awesome. And I have a question before we get into our Q&A. Would you say you've been in this field for a long time, and so have everyone has been on the call today, but would you say that your why, do you have a why, and is your why being answered every day of why you chose to be in this field?
Absolutely. We're seeing people learn and grow, and that's passed on to the children and the families. So, very authentic, very intentional movement from the first days that we have the kiddos until we see them off to school. So we're seeing measurable growth in these kids and our staff at the same time.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for all of my questions. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Reba.
Okay, now is some time for all of you. I don't see many questions in the chat, so I'd love it if people would use the raise your hand to ask questions of any of our presenters or to talk about what your thoughts are in hearing about this framework, considering that whether or not these are quality jobs, and just entering into a dialogue with us about that. I do not see hands. Questions. Can people talk a little bit about their own, perhaps experiences in trying to promote quality jobs? Or we did have one comment that talked about, working to put together an apprenticeship program and not being able to find funding, which is incredibly frustrating. And we appreciate sharing that. But other comments, other experiences people have had, or what do you think about these principles? And what do you think about the case that early childhood is a career worth pursuing?
I can jump in here.
Thank you, Amanda.
So a couple things that I would lift up. One is, as a policy advocate, when I try to have conversations with policymakers about these kinds of things, I run into what Mark Twain defined as one of the biggest problems, right? He said, it's not what people don't know that's the problem, it's what they know that ain't so. And a lot of people, whether they are general public members or elected officials, they know a lot of things about early childhood education that just ain't so. Um, and so I think one of the things that I have found works is the nonprofit consulting firm FSG has this fabulous model they call the groundwater of systems change. And I'll drop it into the chat in a minute. But basically it boils down to you can have the best policy idea in the world, but if you haven't shifted people's underlying mental models of how the world works, they're not going to take on and champion your policy change. So when I think about these issues, right, we say in immigration work all the time, you can't reason someone out of a belief that they didn't reason themselves into, right? So people believe a lot of things because they emotionally want them to be true, right? Oh, it would be better for young kids if they stayed at home with their parents. And look, I'm not going to say that anybody's parents should or shouldn't make any particular decision, but we live in a society in which that is not economically feasible for the vast majority of people. And so given that, how do we proceed, right? So yeah, I'll drop in the groundwater systems change model because I do find that a really helpful tool for advocates who are trying to think about, well, how do I move a conversation that feels very stuck sometimes?
Amanda, thank you so much for that, because that idea of the mental model is exactly why we are having this conversation. Because we think there's a mental model that we sometimes hear people express, especially as we're talking about promoting apprenticeships and recruiting people into the field, that this is not a worthy job, that it's not, that you spend your day changing diapers and wiping noses and that nothing interesting happens. I've been in this field 42 years, and it's the most interesting profession I think you can be in. We did have, I think, Simeon, you mentioned you'd be happy to chat a little bit about some of your experiences and join the conversation. Please unmute and join us. Are they able to unmute, Kimberly? Ah, there you are. Hi, Simeon.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, good afternoon. I'm on the East Coast, so that's where we're at right now. But yeah, I'd be happy to speak about it a little bit. So I'm in DC. I've ran schools in Virginia. I've ran open, unfortunately closed. I've gone through the gambit in the field. So on a couple things of like the apprenticeship model. So I'm on the steering committee for DC Men in ECE. We have just started working a lot with local universities on apprenticeship and mentoring programs, specifically targeting BIPOC males, getting into the field, staying into the field, and really uplifting them in the field. We already know that 3% of men are in the ECE workforce. We know less than 1% are representative of BIPOC males. So we're in our fourth year in DC, but we work with KIP in Philadelphia and in DC as well. I've spent some time talking to guys in Colorado, men in ECE, and different California workforce as well. Additionally, I'm on the task force for the Pay Equity Fund for the bill in DC. So I've been very closely attached to that bill from its writing inception to really helping kind of promote and scream at the mayor's office and different council of the whole members, what seems like every month or so. But I think one of the things that we have to think about after being on panels with people in Minnesota, Vermont, New Mexico is where the money comes from, right? So Vermont's wonderful idea of this payroll tax, well, it really only feels like a nickel or a dime per paycheck, has really shown us that if you could take a nickel out of everybody's paycheck in a state like Vermont, imagine taking a quarter, where we still wouldn't notice the difference, but a nickel makes all the difference. You could even take a dollar. We would round up to a dollar at the grocery store, right? If it was from 73 cents to a dollar, what a difference it would actually make. And it didn't have to be quote unquote a bat tax like we're aiming for in DC, like the business tax, or a tax the rich. Like something like Vermont's model really creates a sustainable fund that doesn't pull the ECE educators' money. It doesn't pull the fact that no school in the country loses out, just like in subsidies. So in DC, for instance, the highest quality rating you can get is only an 80% reimbursement rate. So if we have a 60 or 75% school of subsidy rating, they lose money by taking the most valuable assets and providing jobs for working families that need it, and children equitable and high learning education, because the Pay Equity Fund requires all of our teachers to have a CDA to be in the building, have an associate's to be a lead, or a bachelor's to get the maximum funding. you have New Mexico doing universal. We have Mayor Mamdani in New York really pushing 2K. And you have Minnesota creating areas of funding streams through grants. But I think what states need to think about is stop thinking about the government sometimes and start getting local, right? Your local voting, your city voting, your county voting, like those are the people that are going to make the difference and get the bills passed. We've learned that firsthand. I came from New Jersey and then Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, and then I was running kids' businesses. And what I learned firsthand was like the corporate entity really did not connect with the franchisee. The local franchisees connected with our state boards, our Board of Education, our localities and town meetings and councils. Like I had so little to do with paying a royalty fee every month, but so much to do with being on the town business association. So I think that if we can figure out really helping states figure out what's beneficial in their individual models. It's there, but it does take all of us being in a room. It takes the NACE's Public Policy Forum to get 40 plus states together. It takes maybe states having county meetings with their directors and their district leaders. And like you guys mentioned early on, sometimes it takes people that might not have, I guess, cross-curricular goals where we all want to hire from the same sandbox. But we do all have to hear each other out. And, you know, it's DC is a prime example. We are literally in the same breeding ground of looking for the same quality educators. And we're all, frankly, offering the same rate of pay. So what makes me different than somebody else? But I do have to bring everybody together and talk about keeping this fund and talk about keeping these mentorship programs that we have going on from every facet of nonprofit. So, you know, I think it really is, it's always going to be an ongoing conversation. And to Riva's point, this isn't a new conversation. This is a 1960s conversation. This is a 1930s conversation. And this is probably going to be a 2050 conversation. But we do have to figure out how to train directors to understand that there's the business of education and the education of business, and we need a median ground.
Oh, I love that phrase, the education of business, Simeon. Thank you so much. And I think a lot of what I hear as you're talking is even how we do fight the mental models that some people have about the work that we do in early care and education. And I'm actually from Vermont, so I was part of the 10-year movement under Let's Grow Kids. And I will tell you, I was a state administrator when we started, and I was like, what? You're going to spend a whole bunch of money trying to convince people that that this is worth doing? I think people know it's worth doing. And you know what? I was wrong, even in a pretty liberal state where a lot of people thought, yeah, early childhood is good. It took 10 years to build momentum across, as you said, local communities, businesses, everybody beginning to understand all the complexity. So really, that was really helpful. And I love how you talked about some of the work that you're doing, bringing in men. And yes, I love April talking about leadership development, you know, awakening the leaders that are emerging in this field is really important. And I see that Daniela has her hand up. And Daniela, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Give people a second to unmute.
Hello?
Hi.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
My name
good.
is
Thanks for
Daniela Paez. Well, I apologize if I may be a little confused about this, but I just want to share what I'm doing. I think it's related. I'm a training coordinator for a family childcare system in Lowell, Massachusetts. So I'm working in an advocacy network here in Massachusetts. I am working in my advocacy project related with, like the rights of educators and all this, as you, Riva, were saying, like this word, that in my opinion, not everyone have the knowledge about how complicated it is, but how important it is. So I work with family childcare educators, and I've been realizing since I started working as a training coordinator, there is a gap of information and education for our educators related with advocacy. So when I started working in this field, all the information was too much, so confusing. My first language is Spanish. So in my community, most providers speak just Spanish. However, they can get a license to provide early education, right? To get the license, there is not a problem if you just speak one language. But the reality comes then, after. Yes, when you face that you need to talk with parents, that you need to follow regulations that are normally in English, which I understand we are in the United States. However, I think if they are capable to receive a license to take care of kids, the services, the education should be in their language that they manage, right? So I've been starting like realizing about those gaps and lack of information, that even when I am every day reading and learning new terms, I start thinking like this information about advocacy, representatives, the budget that right now, it's in conversations. I start realizing like, if this is new for me, that I have the possibility to work every single day in the field, imagine for our educators. So I'm working specifically as Simon. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Well, the person who just talked before me, uh, were saying like, uh, we need to start understanding, how that works. Because, and maybe I'm just going in circles, but well, my point is like, I'm working to educate our educators from scratch related with the state, right? So some of us, or some of them, because I already went, has never been in the state house. They don't know who is the representative. They don't know who is the local senator. Well, many terms that even I'm still learning, right? But once I can figure out this information, I think the educators need to know this information in their own language. So then we can invite them to those conversations. I mean, they're always invite. However, sometimes because we don't know the information, there is too many terms,
They
in
could
a
fully
language that,
participate.
yes, we don't
Yes.
kind of understand. We feel afraid. We feel that we don't belong to those spaces. So I'm working specifically in that, like make advocacy through education for our providers, because in those rooms I can see directors, I can see, from the organizations, well, but I don't see too many educators. And at the end, they are the ones who are doing the hard work every single day. So that's my project. I've been working on that, and it's been difficult. Uh, but I believe in the power of education in topics that maybe can be difficult at the beginning, but once we understand it, we can really make changes and make improvements a little bit and speak up for our rights as educators. So I don't know if that was related with,
No, it's
but thank you
very
so much.
helpful, Daniela.
Uh,
Daniela, I appreciate you bringing family childcare educators into the conversation, because, again, many people believe that that is something that someone who lacks other skills or who doesn't want to go out and get a different kind of job does. And yet, I would say it's the one role in this field I have never done. And it's one of the hardest I can imagine, because you not only run your own business, you're also attending to children and to families. And the folks who do it well are unbelievably good at it. And I would say you are absolutely doing great service to the field by becoming that link between the family child care providers and the advocacy. It's tricky around advocacy because people who love doing the work they do in childcare don't always love going and hanging out in the state house because that's boringer. That's boringer. That's more boring than the work they do every day, right? But they need to be represented and they need to come together. So networks like yours that bring providers together, that let them talk together, and 100%, one of the things we all need to advocate for is that when people are being educated, they need to be educated in their first language because it's very hard to learn anything new without that. So those are important things to advocate for around your state. But thank you for bringing in family childcare because I've seen many family childcare folks make that a great career for their families, right? Like it's just amazing. And trying to break down the barriers that allow them to fully participate in leadership and advocacy is important, but also holding them up as professionals who do important and impactful work is really important. So thanks for the work you do. It's very, very related.
Thank you.
And I think that's really important. I'm going to go back a long, long time now to when I was in Rhode Island, and we had a very high population of Spanish-speaking family child care providers in the city of Providence. It actually meant that at that time, we had more capacity for childcare than we had need, which was amazing. And they were a really great and powerful group, but we translated absolutely 100% of everything into those languages for them. So I think that's really important. Other folks who might want to speak up or add something to the conversation, we have just a few more minutes that we can chat with each other about this. Or Kelsey, I don't know if you want to add something, or Marion, you may want to add something. Or
Reva, there was one more question in the chat from
great.
April
I
Westerman.
did not see it. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah. So the question is, we are getting ready to plan a childcare jobs campaign in our state.
Thank you.
What are things we should consider, stay away from, etc., especially knowing the pay, culture, etc., will remain the same at this time? So I don't have a specific answer to that question. I just wanted to make sure we got to it.
April, thank you so much for that question. But I actually, Amanda, am going to talk about what you just talked about systems change. It really is significant, April, that one of the things you have to get at is those mental models, as opposed to what do you need to stay away from? What do you need to talk about and uncover about why people think that you don't need to pay people who do this work? Or I know often people will say, how can it be possible that childcare costs so much and workers make so little? Somebody is making a ton of money somewhere. And, I spent a few years consulting around building business plans for new programs. And I say to people, 80% of a budget in childcare is personnel, 80%, right? So you can give me free space, you can give me free materials. Those are great, but I still can't raise my wages because 80% of my budget is in that. And parents can't afford to pay for those being high wages. That's the catch. And then people will say, wow, it's more expensive than junior college. And I go, yeah, what's the ratio of teachers to students in junior college? Is it 1 to 4? And is junior college 10 hours of continuous interaction between students and teachers every day? It is a labor intensive service to do well for children and families. And every penny of it, we have mountains of research, is 100% worth it. So getting to the bottom of those mental models, I think, April, as you're working on this campaign and getting people to really consider, find out why they're saying somebody's making money here. Then you have to prove to them that someone's not, right? And bring out budgets. I know we did a lot of training with providers to bring their budgets forth to the legislature, to the business roundtable, to talk about the economics of this business. And And then it begins to change things and people begin to understand. So really good luck on your campaign. I will advise you, look a little bit at Let's Grow Kids, which was the campaign in Vermont that took 10 years. It's a good playbook. Also, look at the playbook because that is full of strategies for trying to change the conditions of workers and promote economic mobility. So check out those resources around systems change, and pay attention to like what you're trying to achieve and what mental models underneath are preventing allies to come on board and join you. Other folks who may want to jump in or add something. We have just a couple more minutes left.
Reba, I would love to hear what Kelsey would say since they are a sponsor and an employer.
I would love that too. Kelsey, you're on.
Are we wanting to know like priorities as far as building a campaign?
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
you also, Kelsey, you actually have a foothold in 2 different states. So you actually can see that this entire environment is very driven by state policy.
It is. It is. We're very heavy in apprenticeship dollars in Illinois, where Iowa just does not allocate the same amount of priority dollars for that. We do see a huge turnout because of that investment too. Way more apprentices in Illinois than we have in Iowa, but we're slowly building that program. April, what I'd suggest is what we did. We went to local, community foundations, United Way, and we pitched our case. How can we build a good workforce and be providing quality care for kids? Our answer was registered apprenticeship program. People are not coming to us ready-made, so we have to grow our own. And we choose those people very intentionally. We pick people that are committed, that are serious about the field, and it's a career for them. It's not just a job. We grow them up. We put them through, we reward them for the apprenticeship process, and then we continue rewarding them by continuing their professional development, their career opportunities, their professional growth within the agency.
Thank you, Kelsey. That is great advice and a great conversation about how registered apprenticeship can help with some of this. Other folks who might want to put something into that or have something to add, either about a registered apprenticeship program. I know one of the resistances we sometimes have when we try to connect across traditional workforce development in other industries and early childhood. Some of it's the wages issues, and some of it's the like, are these quality jobs? And that's we're partially challenging some mental models here by talking about these are high quality jobs in a lot of ways. If we can get the wages and the benefits commensurate with the skills, we're in a whole new ball game. And I just wanted to mention also to Daniela that there is a great movie that's been circulating called Make a Circle, which is about organizing family child care providers in California that you might find very interesting. I think you can probably find it on the internet. Because I'm talking, I can't find it that quickly because I'm not that good at that. But if somebody can find somebody can find the link and throw it in for Daniela, that would be great. Oh, I love that Bruce has talked about Illinois is very strong in teachers programs for registered apprenticeship. Great. Other comments people want to make? One last call, and then I'm going to turn it over to Marion to wrap us up. Allie's mentioning that they did a whole event around the Make a Circle documentary. We did that here in Vermont as well, and I think it's a great experience, but especially, Daniela, the people you're talking about who will recognize themselves in some of the people in the documentary. It might be very empowering for your network. I don't see any other hands. I don't see other comments. And so, Marion, I am going to kick it back to you to wrap us up.
All right. I love this conversation. And as we wrap up today, I want to highlight a few resources that we will be hitting, that will be hitting your inbox along with the recording and today's slide deck. You will receive the Results for America Job Quality Playbook, the ECWC Crosswalk, fresh off the press, and the National Skills Coalition report that Amanda shared, Making Care Jobs Good Jobs. Our hope is that these tools help you carry today's conversation forward. We encourage you to use what you have heard along with these resources to spark deeper dialogue in your networks about what makes careers in early childhood education good jobs. The messages and stories shared today can also support conversations with policymakers, decision makers, and funders about the kinds of investment and support the ECE workforce truly needs. And importantly, they highlight how apprenticeship continues to serve as a powerful workforce model, one that uplifts the workforce behind the workforce. As you are having those conversations, you don't have to do it by yourself. The Early Childhood Workforce Connector is here to support you. We are an independent ECE apprenticeship intermediary dedicated to advancing a high qualified and well compensated early childhood education workforce through supporting the development and expansion of registered apprenticeship, youth apprenticeship, and pre-apprenticeship programs. We offer a comprehensive range of support and assistance for new or expanding apprenticeship programs. We are here to help apprenticeship easier, to help make apprenticeship easier for all those involved. Our staff can meet teens where they are in the process and customize the following services based on their needs. And as you can see, those services are on our wonderful flower, but I'm going to dig a little bit deeper in them, and we can assist with program development and expansion support, including program registration and streamlined program operations. We offer innovative marketing and recruitment materials and strategies, mentorship training, and curriculum alignment, sustainability planning, and funding guidance, as well as landscape scans and career pathway development. ECWC is a collective team with subject matter expertise that spans from ECE, apprenticeship, and workforce development. Our approach is to provide personalized support, strategic collaboration, and practical resources that strengthen program design, operations, mentorship, and community engagement. ECWC provides strategic consultation through one-on-one technical assistance sessions, facilitating collaborative learning opportunities to elevate program innovation and growth. We operate under a fee-for-service model, partnering directly with organizations to advance apprenticeship efforts and build lasting solutions for ECE workforce. ECWC offers a tiered service model that allows organizations to choose the level of support that best aligns with their program goals, capacity, and their budget. We encourage you to reach out to us to discuss our services further and explore how we can collaborate together to advance the ECE workforce. So the next slide, we have a surprise. Next session, we have another session. ECWC is hosting quarterly webinars. We hope you can join us for our next session, your how-to guide on early childhood education registered apprenticeship program development. And this is all happening on August 11th of 2026 this year. Yes, I love the hearts. The link to the register for this event can be found in the follow-up email, and it is live. And so we are waiting for you to join in on that conversation. Be sure to save the date also for ECWC's winter webinar happening December 8th, 2026. And on our last slide, always remember that you can connect with us. We are on the website. We have an info@ecwcconnector.org. Sign up for our e-newsletter, and we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we would like to thank we would like to thank all contributing people to this wonderful webinar with our special guest, Amanda, from National Skills Coalition. Her contact information is on the slide. And also Kelsey Swanson from SAL Community Services. And also Reva as our moderator and our presenter. And let me give a shout out to Kimberly. She is not on camera, but she has been moving and grooving behind the camera, providing our IT and logistics support with our slides and chat and all the things. And we would like to thank everyone that attended today. And we will see you on August 11th, 2026. Don't forget to register for that next one. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. It was great talking with you today. Make the case that early childhood jobs are high quality jobs, well worth pursuing.